The burial reception was still going on when Jennifer made the announcement that shocked everyone. Standing in Anderson's Lekki mansion, his elegant widow looked at Precious and said calmly, "Everything belongs to her now." The crowd gasped. Some women covered their mouths. Others whispered angrily. Precious stood there in her black dress, looking triumphant but somehow uneasy. She had won, hadn't she? After years of being hidden, she was finally recognized. But as she smiled nervously, an old woman in the corner whispered to her friend, "Let her enjoy it more. She will soon understand." Those words hung in the air like smoke. If only Precious knew what understanding meant. 2 days after the burial, Precious moved into the mansion with 3 suitcases and a million dreams. She took selfies in every room and posted them online with the caption, "Finally home." The staff watched her silently, their faces blank like empty notebooks. Anderson's driver, Uncle Tond, wouldn't even look her in the eye when she greeted him. That first night, as she walked through the house, she noticed Jennifer's photo still hanging on the wall, untouched, dust-free. When she asked the maid about it, the young girl said quietly, "Madam Jennifer said we should never move that one." Precious felt a chill run down her spine but shook it off. She was the madam now. Precious remembered the first time she met Anderson like it was yesterday. It was at an industry mixer at Eco Hotel, 2 years ago. The room was full of big men and women in expensive clothes, but Anderson stood out. He was older, confident, and his smile could make you forget your own name. When he walked up to her and said, "You're too beautiful to be standing alone," she melted. They talked for hours. He promised her a different life, far from her small flat in Soralia. As he was leaving that night, he leaned close and whispered, "You'll replace her one day." Precious had laughed then, thinking it was just sweet talk. Now, standing in his house, she realized he had meant every word. Jennifer had always known about Precious. In fact, she knew everything. At a charity gala months before Anderson died, Jennifer hosted the event with grace, smiling at guests while watching her husband and Precious exchange secret glances across the room. Her friends noticed how calm she was, too calm. One friend whispered, "Jen, are you okay? That girl is staring at your husband." Jennifer sipped her wine slowly and replied, "I know exactly who she is." Her friend was confused. "And you're not angry?" Jennifer smiled gently. "Anger is for people who don't have a plan." Later that night, Jennifer called her lawyer and said just 3 words, "Prepare the documents." After Anderson's sudden death from a heart attack, the blogs went crazy. Someone leaked old photos of him and Precious at a hotel in Dubai. The pictures showed them laughing, holding hands, living like a couple. Public sympathy, which had been pouring toward Jennifer, suddenly turned sour. People called Precious a homewrecker. They said she killed Anderson with stress. But then Jennifer shocked everyone again. She released a press statement calling Precious Anderson's dear companion, and saying she held no grudge. The same day, Jennifer's lawyer called Precious. "Madam Jennifer wants to transfer the house to you," he said. Precious dropped her phone in disbelief. Was this real? Or was this messy? She didn't know yet. The lawyer's office was cold and smelled like old paper. Precious sat across from him, watching as he pushed documents toward her one by one. "Sign here, here, and here," he said with a professional smile. The papers gave her full ownership of the Lekki mansion and 40% of Anderson's company shares. Jennifer had insisted, "He would want you to have it." Precious felt tears in her eyes. Maybe Jennifer wasn't so bad after all. Maybe she understood love. But there was one clause buried deep in the contract that Precious didn't read carefully. She was too excited. At the end, the lawyer slid one final page forward with a subtle smile and said, "Sign here too, madam." She signed without asking questions. Precious threw a small celebration at the house to mark her new beginning. Old friends came over for champagne and small chops. They laughed loudly, took pictures, and toasted to her success. "You deserve this, babe," one friend said. But halfway through the party, the lights went out. The music stopped. Everyone groaned. Precious called the caretaker. "Uncle, what happened to the generator?" The old man scratched his head and said slowly, "Madam Jennifer sold it last week, before she left." The room went silent. Precious laughed nervously. "Sold it? Why would she do that?" The caretaker just shrugged. Her friends exchanged worried glances. The celebration ended early. Something didn't feel right anymore. The next week, Precious visited Anderson's company office in Victoria Island. She wanted to introduce herself as the new stakeholder. But when she arrived, the staff barely greeted her. They whispered and looked away. Anderson's nameplate was gone from the director's door. She asked the receptionist, "Where is Mr. Anderson's name?" The girl looked uncomfortable. "Madam, they removed it last month." Precious frowned. "Why?" Before the girl could answer, Precious overheard two men talking near the elevator. One said, "EFCC came here last month. They seized plenty files." The other replied, "I hear say the matter heavy." Precious felt her stomach turn. As she left the building, she noticed a man in a black suit watching her from across the street. That evening, Precious remembered something strange. Months before Anderson died, he had asked her to help him with a small favor. He said his accounts were temporarily frozen and he needed her to take a loan in her name. "It's nothing, baby. Just help me. I'll pay it back in 2 weeks," he had said sweetly. She trusted him completely and went to the bank. The loan was for 32 million naira. Anderson promised to handle everything. But he never mentioned it again. And then he died. Now, as Precious sat on the bed staring at her phone, a call came in. It was the bank. "Good evening, madam. Your 32 million naira loan is 3 months overdue. We need payment immediately." Her hands began to shake. 2 weeks later, auditors arrived at the company. They wore serious faces and carried heavy files. They told Precious that Anderson had misappropriated company funds and transferred money to offshore accounts. "We are not accusing you, madam, but we need clarity," one auditor said. Precious insisted she knew nothing. She was just a shareholder. But then they handed her documents, transaction records, signed authorizations. Every single one had her name on it. Her signature. Her account details. "This is impossible," she whispered. "I never signed this." But as she looked closer, she recognized her own handwriting. It was from the contract Jennifer had given her. The one she signed without reading. Her heart sank. She had been signing her own trap. Precious tried calling Jennifer for days. No answer. She sent text messages, WhatsApp messages, even emails. Nothing. Desperate, she drove to Jennifer's office in Lekki. The assistant, a young man in glasses, looked at her with pity. "Madam Jennifer relocated to the UK 2 weeks ago," he said. Precious felt dizzy. "UK? When is she coming back?" The assistant shrugged. She didn't say. Precious wanted to cry. "Please, I need to speak with her. It's urgent." The assistant paused, then reached into his drawer. He pulled out a white envelope. "She left this for you," he said. As he handed it over, Precious noticed something in his eyes. It wasn't pity anymore. It was a smirk. Precious sat in her car and opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single handwritten note on expensive paper. It read, "Dear Precious, you wanted his world. Now it's yours. Handle it well. J." That was all. No explanation. No apology. Just code words. But there was something else in the envelope. A small flash drive labeled, "For her eyes only." Precious stared at it for a long time. Her heart was beating fast. What was on this drive? Slowly, she drove back to the mansion, locked herself in the bedroom, and plugged the flash drive into her laptop. The screen loaded. A folder appeared with 20 video files. She clicked the first one and gasped. The videos were recordings of Anderson's private meetings. In one, he was bribing a government official. In another, he was discussing fake contracts. There were recordings of him laughing with his friends about cheating on Jennifer. And then Precious saw herself. In one video, Anderson was speaking sweetly to her. "Baby, sign this for me." "It's nothing." She remembered that day. She had trusted him completely. But in the background of the recording, another voice spoke. A woman's voice, calm and clear. "Good. Now she's trapped." Precious froze. That voice. It was Jennifer's voice. She replayed it 3 times to be sure. Jennifer had been there. Jennifer had planned everything. Anderson wasn't just using her. They both were. Precious felt like she was drowning. She couldn't breathe properly. Everything made sense now. Jennifer had never been the hurt wife. She had been the master planner. Precious rushed to Anderson's lawyer, the same man who had helped her sign the documents. She burst into his office without an appointment. "You knew," she screamed. "You all knew." The lawyer stayed calm, almost bored. "Knew what, madam?" Precious slammed the table. "That I was signing documents that would destroy me." He sighed. "Madam, Jennifer instructed us to transfer everything to you after he died." "That's exactly what we did." Before Precious could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a text, "EFCC officials are at your gate." Her legs went weak. At the EFCC headquarters, Precious sat in a cold interrogation room. 2 officers asked her questions for hours. They showed her bank statements, transfer receipts, offshore account details. Everything had her name. "I didn't do this," she kept saying. "I was strict." One officer, a woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "Madam, ignorance is not a defense in court. These transactions happened from your account. You need to prove you didn't launder his money." Precious felt tears running down her face. "But I loved him. I didn't know anything." The officer shook her head. "Love doesn't erase evidence, madam." They let her go that evening but told her not to leave Lagos. She was now officially under investigation. By morning, the story was everywhere. Blogs, newspapers, Twitter, Instagram. The headline screamed, "Side chick turned heiress under EFCC investigation." Her face was plastered online. Strangers called her a thief, a witch, a gold digger. Brands she had just started working with dropped her immediately. Friends stopped answering her calls. Even her hairdresser cancelled her appointment. Precious felt like she was disappearing. That afternoon, one friend finally texted her, "Babe, I just saw that Jennifer's company got a new 50 million naira government contract. She's trending for the right reasons." Precious stared at the message. While she was sinking, Jennifer was rising. It wasn't luck. It was the plan all along. Jennifer had used her as a scapegoat. Late that night, Precious remembered something Anderson had said months before he died. They were lying in bed after an argument about Jennifer. He had looked at her seriously and said, "If anything happens to me, don't trust my wife." Precious had laughed it off, thinking he was just being paranoid or jealous. "Why would I need to deal with her?" "You're here," she had said. But Anderson's face had been serious, almost afraid. "I'm telling you, Precious. She's smarter than you think." Now, sitting alone in the dark mansion, Precious finally understood. Anderson hadn't been warning her because of jealousy. He was warning her because he was afraid of Jennifer. And he had been right to be afraid. One by one, everything fell apart. Precious woke up one morning to find her bank accounts frozen. She couldn't withdraw money, couldn't pay her lawyer, couldn't even buy food. The staff began quitting. First the cook, then the cleaner, then the security guard. By the end of the week, only Uncle Tom, the driver, remained. On his last day, he drove her to the market to buy groceries. As he dropped her off, he looked at her through the rearview mirror and said quietly, "Madam, Jennifer told us this day would come." Precious felt cold. "She told you what?" Uncle Tom didn't answer. He just drove away, leaving her standing there with 2 bags of Gary and tears in her eyes. Just when Precious thought it couldn't get worse, she received a letter from a lawyer she had never met. The letter informed her that Anderson had a son with another woman. A 6-year-old boy. And Jennifer was now his legal guardian. The child would inherit Anderson's trust fund, the real estate properties, and the offshore investments. Everything valuable. The mansion Precious was living in. It wasn't truly hers. It was part of the trust for the boy. She had been given a house she could never truly own. Precious laughed bitterly. Jennifer hadn't given her a gift. She had given her a burden, a cage, a trap designed to collapse. And now it was collapsing right on top of her. 3 weeks later, court papers arrived. Precious was being evicted for a breach of trust terms. The same lawyer who had smiled and helped her sign documents was now representing Jennifer. He stood in the living room with sheriffs and read the eviction notice out loud. "You have 7 days to vacate this property." Precious begged. "Please, just let me speak to Jennifer. There must be a mistake." The lawyer looked at her without emotion. "Madam, there's no mistake. You signed the agreement. You just never read the fine print." Precious remembered that day in his office, how excited she had been, how she had signed everything quickly. "What did the fine print say?" she whispered. He smiled coldly. "That this house belongs to Anderson's heir. You were only a temporary occupant." Precious felt completely alone until her best friend Lola came to visit. Lola had been quiet since the scandal broke, but now she showed up at the mansion with tears in her eyes. "I need to tell you something," Lola said. Precious was hopeful. Finally, someone who cared. But what Lola said next shattered her. "Jennifer paid me to keep tabs on you. For 2 years." Precious stood frozen. "What?" Lola cried. "I'm sorry. She paid me every month. She wanted to know everything you and Anderson did. I didn't think it would go this far." Precious slapped her hard across the face. Lola didn't fight back. She just whispered, "She planned everything, Precious. Even Anderson's funeral. She knew he would die." Then Lola left, leaving Precious completely broken. Desperate, Precious used her last bit of data to find Jennifer online. She discovered Jennifer was now living in London, running her business from a luxury apartment. Precious sent her a Zoom meeting request. Surprisingly, Jennifer accepted. When the screen connected, Jennifer appeared calm, sitting on a white couch, sipping red wine. She looked rested, even happy. "Jennifer, please," Precious begged. "I'm losing everything. Help me." Jennifer tilted her head, almost like she was confused. "Help you?" she asked softly. "My dear, I already helped you. I gave you everything you wanted. You wanted my husband, I let you have him. You wanted his house, I gave it to you. You wanted his life, now you have it." Precious sobbed. "But it's destroying me." Jennifer smiled. "Yes. That was the point." That night, Precious couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about everything. About Anderson, about Jennifer, about her own foolishness. Then she remembered Anderson's old email password. He had told her once, drunk and careless. She logged into his account. Most emails were deleted, but there was one draft message he never sent. The subject line read, "Confession." Precious clicked it with shaking hands. The message was addressed to no one. It was just Anderson confessing. He admitted to stealing money, bribing officials, lying to everyone. And at the end, he wrote, "Jennifer will fix everything when I'm gone. She always does. I only hope she spares Precious." Precious closed the laptop and cried until she had no tears left. 2 months later, the news broke. Jennifer's company was cleared of all suspicion by the EFCC. Her name was removed from every investigation. She gave an interview on TV, looking elegant and professional, talking about resilience and moving forward. Meanwhile, Precious lost the house, her car, her reputation, and even her phone. She moved into a friend's boys' quarters in Oja. One evening, as she sat on the floor staring at nothing, her old phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. She opened it. The message read, "You were never my enemy, Precious. You were my cover. Anderson needed to hide his crimes. I needed someone to blame. You were perfect. J." Precious didn't cry. She had no tears left. She just laughed. A bitter, broken laugh. Months passed. Precious now sold recharge cards on the street in Ikeja. Her hair was no longer fixed. Her nails were no longer painted. One afternoon, she walked past the Lekki mansion. There were new tenants now, a young family with 2 children. They looked happy. Precious stood outside the gate for a long time, remembering how she used to post selfies in that house. How she used to think she had won. As she turned to leave, she whispered to herself, "If only I knew. If only she knew that Jennifer hadn't fought her because Jennifer had already won. She hadn't lost her husband. She had freed herself from him. And she had made Precious carry all his sins. Some thrones, Precious realized too late, are built to destroy whoever sits on them." Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.